Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish.
I'm teasing you a little bit about today's discussion because I think today's discussion is really important, especially if you find yourself being a little bit of a negative Nelly, or you feel just a little overwhelmed, or you feel like you just can't get beyond those things that you think about. I'm going to unpack a whole bunch of stuff. I got a lot of this from reading a bunch of psychological research, interestingly enough. And I also got this from, I told you about Kara Lowenthal just a minute ago, because she has this thing called the Thought Ladder that's been super helpful in my life. And I want to share this tool with you. She talks about it on her podcast, which I can't even say because it's un-F your brain is basically what it is. Kara she uses some language. And for me, I just, I'm looking for good information. I'm not going to hold any of that kind of stuff against anyone, truly. And this whole idea of thought ladders were an exquisite tool. So I can't wait to share that with you. Susan says her date is as soon as possible. Well, there you go. I would love that to happen too. Hi, Jeanette. Yeah, azaleas will probably not be blooming here for a little while. Okay. You ready to get down to business? Well, first of all, let's just take a look at something, because I think I've got a really good metaphor for all of this, because, automation started in the early 19th century, really. That's when everything started to get automated. And then as we started to get into cars and different things, and really the industrial age kind of rolled right in. And what did that do, right? What did the industrial age do? It got rid of people who were lamp lighters and horse pooper scooper people who went around and do you think that they were a little bit excited about that? Do you think they all came along and they said, hey, great idea, you're going to just put me out of work? Do we hear anything like that going on right now? We sure do. People are flipping out because fossil fuels are on their way out, y'all. They are. Because they pollute, because they've cost us our climate. We have a climate crisis because of this. There's a whole issue associated with them, and there's people screaming, well, what about jobs? Well, what do you think the lamplighters and the pooper scoopers were saying at that time? Do you think that they were saying, hey, let's get rid of the cars because we want to keep picking up the poop? They had to adapt. They had to change. They had to shift. And as a matter of fact, right now where we are, Jaguar, Cadillac, Volvo, Hyundai, I never know how to say that, Mercedes, they're going to be all electric by 2030. Did you know that? All electric. It's happening, whether you like it or not, whether it's going to cost you your job or not, whether it's going to wipe out industries or not. This happened before. It's going to happen again. And the reason that I bring this all up, is automation creates growing pains. Automation creates outrage as well, because people lose jobs over it, right? But it's part of our global evolution, and it's part of our evolution as well. We have to lose something in order to gain something. That's exactly what happens. And we need to be good with it, because we're not going to stop progress. We're not going to stop something better because somebody wants to keep a crummy job that just adds to the pollution load of this world. It's just, the thinking is just backward. But we always think backward because we think emotionally. We get all our feelings going, and it's all about X, Y, and Z, instead of looking at it from the perspective of things have to change. That's how it works. But we have automatic thoughts just like this. We want to protect them. We want to keep them. We want to keep the pooper, scooper, picker uppers, don't we? Have you noticed that? We do. We do that with our thoughts. We have instantaneous thoughts, we have habitual thoughts, and we have unconscious thoughts. And sometimes they're all rolled into one, and they all happen at the same time. And you know, the thing is, we all have them. All of us. Nobody is immune from having automatic thoughts. The point, though, that I'm trying to make is that oftentimes we don't even give it a second thought. We don't even think about our thinking. We just allow for our thinking, and it just runs free as much as it wants to and does whatever it wants to do, taking us down with it. We start with our thoughts and our feelings, and they get all jumbled in there, and we can't understand what the heck is going on. So if you have a lot of automatic thoughts and they're more centered in the negativity range, you're gonna find yourself depressed and unhappy and feeling overwhelmed and just completely unable to really cope with what's going on. I've seen this before, and I've seen it in our Hot Melt Sprint group, and I get it, you know, because we all do it. I remember this was probably a month ago or something, and I posted something really encouraging in our group, and somebody said, and it was something about, you know, that we have the ability to do this and we can flip our thoughts, or, you know, something along those lines. I can't even remember what it was exactly. And somebody came along that said right away, easier said than done. Immediately, like 2 minutes after I posted it. And I started thinking about that for a minute. And I started thinking, did she think about what she posted, or did she just, boom, post it? Did she mull it over? Was there like, how could this be so? Or was this into consideration? Was it part of her whole thinking process? Or did it just land and just say, hey, you know, easier said than done? You know, I kind of cracked it up about it. It was a knee-jerk kind of a thing. And it was an automatic thought that showed up in her post, you know? And I'm not putting her down here. I'm just telling you how this is how it's done. And this is something that we all do. We all fall into the trap of automatic thoughts, right? So our automatic thoughts are also very much influenced, because yours and mine can be completely different. They're influenced by our worldview, our perspective, our life experiences, what we've been through, how we, you know, our religious experience, the people that we've interacted with through our lives, you know, traumatic experience, all kinds of things influence our automatic thoughts, all kinds of stuff. So we have to look at the way then to get rid of some of this automation. So I'm going to give you several things on how to start thinking about it, and then I'm going to take you through this idea of a thought ladder. Okay, so the first thing is to make that connection. We have to catch them, okay? We have to catch them. And the hint that you might have a problem with automatic thoughts is if you spend a lot of time in negativity and a lot of time in saying things like, I'm overwhelmed, it never works out for me, I can't do it, it's too hard, blah, 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 those kind of things. And if you are living a miserable life, you're probably thinking miserable thoughts. And if your misery and your thoughts are coinciding, well, there's a reason why. We all know about the reticular activating system and all of that. We have the opportunity to move past it. And my invitation to you is getting conscious about what those thoughts are, and then making a choice as if you want to keep them or if you want to dump them. Simple, not easy, simple, easier said than done, right? Truly. Anyway, yeah, so you've got to catch them, and that's the simplicity, the simple answer to it all. And yes, it is easier said than done, because it's requiring your thought processes to be a little bit different, and it's bringing them to the prefrontal cortex of your mind instead of just allowing for it and just going with the flow, so to speak. So number two is, this is a good one. You could feel several things at one time. And I'm going to tell you a story on how this all impacted me yesterday of all times, right? So Mark was he was at his sister's house, and he was unavailable when all of a sudden I get this news from Leah and her now fiance Danon, and she's holding up her hand with a ring. I get this picture and I'm like, oh, it finally happened, because we knew that, things were going to be happening, but we didn't know when. So how did I feel? Well, happy, delighted, surprised. And here's where it said, this is what Danon said to me. He said, "You mean Mark didn't tell you?" And I was like, what? What do you mean Mark didn't tell me? Well, when we were visiting you guys in July, we went out and golfed together. That's when I asked him for Leah's hand. It was very old fashioned, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, he never told me. He never told me. So when we hung up and everything, of course, I got a little teary and emotional and everything. And, we shall see about all that. So surprised, happy, delighted, excited, sad, maybe even a little mad, because Mark didn't tell me. He didn't tell me. And his thoughts, once we finally talked, was that, oh, he wanted me to be surprised. And I said, well, but why wouldn't you? My thought, though, was, why wouldn't you trust me with that secret? You see where I'm going with this? We can have all these different jumbled thoughts, jumbled feelings, and then we have a thought that comes out of it. And is it necessarily true about your situation? Well, of course, what I had to do was stop, discuss it, and tell him how I felt about it. Because I ascertained a different meaning from this than what he thought, because human beings don't always line up with the same thoughts. They just don't. Especially when you're in an intimate relationship, they think one thing, you think another, and it's from our perspectives, etc. But that's what I thought. And then I told him, I said, I almost cried because I didn't know. I felt like I should have known about all of this. It's insane. But, but that is my perspective. And that was where I was coming from. And he was coming from his perspective. And we only can honor all of that. And he was like, oh, of course, I'm sorry. And I wasn't trying to keep it from you. Lily, exactly. I get that feeling when I feel excluded. That's how I felt, excluded. So our feelings and our thoughts don't necessarily come across like that, line up. But my thought then was that everything was going to be okay. And I did a thought ladder on it. I'm going to show you here in just a minute what those are all about. Now, there are three types, number three. So number one, catch them. Number two, you can feel several things at one time. And number three is there's three types of automatic thoughts. Okay. The first one is it's neutral. Like, I need to get dog food. That's a neutral thought. It has nothing. There's no emotional impact with it. There's nothing. It's just, there it is. And then there's a positive one. Well, you know what? I'm really good at that. I can do that very well. I'm a crocheter, or no, I'm not. But I can do this little craft very well. Look at the pretty things that I made. Look at all of these. Jenny made some darling little sweaters for Amber's little girls that are all crocheted in bright, pretty colors and just darling. And I'm sure when I looked at that, I said, she did those really well. And I'm sure that Jenny felt really good about those little sweaters when she packed them in the boxes and sent them to the girls. We can feel good about things like that. That's just a positive thing. And then there's a negative. The negative is, oh, well, that's too hard. That's what I would do when it comes to crochet. That's too hard. I can't do that. But it can get even worse, because you can say, that's way too hard for me. I must be dumb. Ascertaining something out of this thought that therefore that means, which is not necessarily true. And when the negative dominates, well, what happens there? Then you start to feel absolutely miserable when the negative starts to dominate. So remember, feelings are not thoughts, and thoughts are not feelings. They're two separate things. So here's what I'm going to show you. I felt hurt, but it was my thought that Mark didn't trust me with such a secret. My thought was, he doesn't trust me with this secret. But my feeling was, I felt hurt. You see, they coordinate with one another, but they're two separate things. And the hurt was true, and the thought was not. And so I had to discuss that with him. So, and then I was able to let go of the hurt. Get it? Isn't that cool? So that's the thought ladder that I have. And I'm going to give you some real juicy stuff on how to do this yourself. Because remember, you've got a positive, neutral, or a negative thought, right? We all do. We have these different kinds of thoughts. So if you're in the negative, let's just start with something that I hear all the time, especially from brand new sprinters or people who are getting into our programs. I'm overwhelmed. That's negative. And remember, too, we also have to connect the dots with what the reticular activating system is going to do with that, and make sure that you feel exactly and you pick up and gather evidence for exactly that. And that's going to then reinforce that statement. So that's part of the whole negativity thing. But the first thing that you can say out of I'm overwhelmed. Let's just pretend you're a brand new sprinter. I'm overwhelmed. Well, where do I even start? This is so much information. It's 18 pages in this guide. The next thought would be more of a neutral thought. Everything's okay. It's a free program. This is okay. I'm going to print this out. Everything is okay, right? And then the next neutral thought is, I can just set priorities on all the things that I need to do. Do I need to make the bone broth? No, I don't need to make the bone broth. I can buy it, Can I do just kind of putting everything sort of in order, neutral, and kind of cooling the fire of, right? And then the next one is, I'm just going to do it one step at a time. I can start getting ready for this right now. I can get my soup made. I can plan my menu for the week. I can go get the groceries. I can do this one step at a time. And then the next one is, you know what? I'm capable and I'm focused. I'm going to crush that sprint. I'm all over it like white on rice. And I know I won't be eating rice this time. You see what I mean? Do you see how we can thought ladder that whole thing down from very negative to kind of neutral and into the place of positive, simply by being aware of what those thoughts are and making a decision with those thoughts to alter them. That's how we do it. But here's something interesting that I read. Cleveland Clinic had this. 80% of our thoughts are negative. How do you like that? 80%. And you want to hear something even crazier? 95% of our thoughts are on repeat. I am overwhelmed. How many times have you said that to yourself? Or I can't do that. That's too hard. I mean, think about your own thoughts. How many times? Ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop. It's just like this continual loop, We talk about loops all the time because that's the truth on how they work. Thought loops. Negative, negative, negative. I can't. It's too hard, too hard, too hard. Overwhelmed. Come on. See, we do it. Now, all we have to do now is understand, let's use a little ladder, and let's just bring this all down, and let's baby step our way to do, and fix it. Because it doesn't work. When we find something that doesn't work, what do we need to do? Do we stand there and roll around in, I'm overwhelmed? Or do we stop, drop, and roll and say, this ain't working? Because when we do that, that's when we can go, okay, all right, cool it. Everything's okay. I can set priorities. I can do this one step at a time. I am capable and I am focused. Oh, what a difference, right? Talk about putting the fire out. Now, we want fire in our bellies for when we're doing things and we're doing things on purpose, but we want to put the fire of negativity out. And this is how we do it. It's called a thought ladder. So I'll tell you, and I've got some more things for you to do, because if we're going to get into this thought ladder work and thought work that Cara has, which is so good, there's several things that go along. Evie says, I just all dropping and rolling, right? That's how you put out a fire. Stop, drop, and roll. And I've talked about this stuff before, but this is important reminders. Number one is to remember that it is okay to feel, right? We are capable of feeling our feelings and not rolling around in them all day long. We can feel the feelings and then we can shift our thoughts. We don't have to live there. We can feel the feelings. I am overwhelmed. I feel this way. Okay, shifty. Everything's okay. I can set priorities. One step at a time. I am capable and I am focused. Do you see the cooling down situation there at all? And number two is to remember this. Remember, all of us have Oregon trails in our brains. This is why we're on repeat. This is why it's just like, this is what we know. This is the know. This is why we do it. This is why we say I'm overwhelmed 8 million times a day. This is why, because it's in our brain and it is a rut. Okay? But if you remember this, you are the boss, not your brain. You are. You know how to manipulate your amygdala. You know how to get your reticular activating system on your side. Do it. Do it. And the reason you want to do it is that you want to have that vibrant life. You don't get a vibrant life until you activate your bossness and become the queen of your own life. This is how we do this. Okay? And I want you to remember something. You remember BJ Fogg when I was talking about his whole thing about how you can take the whole thing on habits. They say it takes 21 days to make a habit, but the research shows us it actually takes 66 days to make a habit. And BJ Fogg said, nonsense, hold my beer. I'll do it in 3 days. And his whole thing was activating other parts, high-fiving yourself and going, yes, I just worked out, even though it feels ridiculous, because that whole thing manipulates your brain and it gets you on the path to doing the thing that you want to do, right? Hear me for a second. What else do we do? When we're trying to quit snacking, what do? Kitchen's closed. Same idea. These are the ideas that are going to light up your brain and help you to break these unhealthy thought processes. It's really incredible. So I don't know about you. I high five myself every time I work out now. Every single time. It's ridiculous. Mark asked me one time, what are you doing? I said, high fiving myself. He thinks it's hilarious, but whatever. The third thing you need to do is take action on that new thought. This is the taking action part. I just explained it. When you do that new thought, when you get and do the thing that you do, then you do something that's going to underline it. You write it down. You tell a friend. You post in the group. You scream out, I just worked out. Woo! High five. Whatever. But this is an action that helps to reinforce the new thing. How do you like that? So remember this. This is what being the boss of your brain means. You are the boss. The boss. Do it like a boss. Take over and make a declaration. This is it. I'm the boss, not you, brain. Shut up. Right? You can say that. Sure. Just don't let your kids hear. My kids, it was illegal for them to say shut up. So remember, you have your old thought of it's not good enough. And your new thought is, here you go. I'm the daughter of a king. How about that? You think you're good enough now? Are you good enough to be the daughter of a king? Bet your bottom you are. So decide, declare, decree it, and make it a part of who you are and what you're about. Okay? Thought ladders. Super, super effective. Remember, 3 different types of thoughts. You have neutral thoughts, I need dog food. You have negative thoughts, I can't, I'm overwhelmed. And you have positive thoughts, I am focused and I am capable. That's your thought ladder. So use empowering language. You've heard me say this all. Can you imagine? What if, those are a couple of them. How about a couple of other ones? It's possible that I can always learn. I love that one. I can always learn. What does that say? I am open for possibilities. How about that? I am open to whatever. I am open. Because when you say I'm overwhelmed, you're going, boom. What does overwhelmed mean? It means all the dirt is falling on you and you're getting swallowed up. It means here comes everything and you're gone. I am open means, oh, here comes all that. Boom. I'm opening. I'm blooming. I'm blooming. This is effective. It is smart. It is simple to do. And I'm telling you, if you are finding yourself in that place, that sinking place, that negative place, living a miserable life, don't you want to exchange it for something vibrant instead? It's your thoughts, these automatic thoughts that come in and rob and take over. And most of us aren't even aware that it's happening. So get into them. Think about your thinking. Allow for the feelings and allow for the process to figure out what the heck is going on and change course. You can feel all you need to feel. You can. But you can also shift your thoughts to support the life that you want to live. Get out the ladder. It's that simple. What do you think? Yeah? I think it's a great way to end this week and a great way to end our whole series on automation. All right. Peace be with you, my friends. I love you all, and I appreciate you greatly, greatly.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.